Yes.
Good evening. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. So we are starting our public lecture session today. So this Sunday is specially designed for a public lecture by our guest speaker. Before we start the talk and I talk about the topic and I introduce the speaker to all the audience here, let us invoke the universal prayer and then we will proceed. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Come back. So we have this special public lecture today by our guest speaker, SHRI MISHRA, and his topic is Universalism in Vedantic Thought. To introduce our very fresh new speaker to this theosophical session, this forum, I introduce Shri Malay Mishra, Brother Malay Mishra, who's a master's in political studies and master of philosophy in international studies from the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And he is a retired Indian Foreign Service officer. He's an ambassador, and he had postings in France, Mauritius, America, Germany, a lot of countries, Hungary, and he was in ambassadorial positions in his last postings. And there's a huge biodata of him. I'm just reading out a couple of things from there, but if I introduce him with all the things he has done and all the contribution he has made for the country and outside, it will be a huge list. So to make it short and to make all of the audience here to understand him better, I would rather talk about his contribution to the society. He is the one who has been talking about and spreading the Vedantic thought, the lessons from the Vedantic scriptures in India as well as outside India. And the best thing he has been doing after he retired is he has been pursuing his passion for acquiring and disseminating his knowledge and creating more leaders as a thought leader. That's more important about his personality. A thought leader is the one who would create downlines, who would create the next generation leaders to take charge of the universe. I would say that way. It is in this spiritual, conquest, or I would say his intellectual philanthropy, which he had started. He also took another step towards it to encourage young people who are interested in the quest and who are seekers to engage with them. He has opened a public library and he has a great collection of personal books, and at his own residence for the benefit of all, he has started this, and it's free of cost for anyone who would like to learn, develop and grow. And he has been mentoring students also with this opportunity, not just to read, but for their career, for their job opportunities, pursuing a higher avenues in life. This is how I think it's a very, very noble cause, because that is what is called giving back to the society, which he is truly doing. Now, talking about this topic, as I said, that he has been truly a person who would be interested in talking about Vedas, simplifying it for everybody's access, and who would be I'll just I think close the Zoom from my close the YouTube from my Zoom link because I think it's kind of making a noise. So now I think it's clear. So that's it. That's a brief introduction I could do in this short time. I hope I did justice to introduce you, sir. Now over to you. Your talk would continue for say around 40 to 45 minutes. And then if people want to ask you some question, then we might engage you with a bit of discussion for let's say another 5-7 minutes. And we will have a closing prayer. That is the format, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Subralena. I hope I'm audible to you. I'm audible to everybody who's attending this talk. I'm indeed grateful to the Philosophical Society, Varanasi in particular, and to you, Subralena, who has introduced me to this wonderful world of theosophy. I was slightly acquainted with it in the past, but I never knew such a deep interlinking there has been between various branches of knowledge, such as theosophy and Vedanta. That it's a discovery for me. And to tell you the truth, I am a student of theosophy. I have now taken great interest in going through some of the primary books on theosophy. Thank you very much for your very kind introduction. It's very generous of you to speak so highly of me. Of course, my library is there, and in which I sometimes go around mentoring students who come to the library to pick up new careers and to look after the future vocations. So this is one engagement of mine after my retirement from the foreign service. But during my service days also, I was, though professionally quite rooted to my job, I was also very philosophically inclined. And Vedanta caught my attention when I was in US, particularly when I went to Chicago on a mission. And there I stumbled upon many literatures of Swami Vivekananda's address at the Chicago Parliament of Religions, in which he was talking highly of a new world. And he was coming from a faith which not only tolerates other religions, but embraces all religions. And he belonged to an universal brotherhood. He said that. So that touched me deeply. And then when I went around in other countries, I also tried to establish little footprints of Vedanta wherever I could do it. My last mission was in Budapest, in Hungary, in Central Europe, and there I established, the Center for Vedantic Studies. So Vedanta has been a passion for me, as you rightly said. And I have tried to understand why Vedanta has attracted me so much. And to those who are not very familiar with the subject, I would like to mention that, Vedas, our Indian civilization is rooted in the Vedas. What we call the Vedic civilization is the earliest civilization dating back to at least 3000 BC, and thereafter running through another 1500 to 2000 years of this great Vedic period, which also is sometimes equated with the Indo-Aryan period. But basically, Vedas were not textbooks, they were not scriptures, they were sayings, they were utterances, they were certain conclusions drawn by some mystics, seers, and sages from their experience, and they were basically questions and answers and riddles and trying to establish who you are, what is your identity, where do you go from here, what is your life all about. So this constituted basically the theme of the Vedas. And there were, as you know, four primary Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sam Veda, the Atharva Veda. So four Vedas, primary Vedas, and Vedas were divided into two parts, as we all know. One was the primary part, which is the Karmakand part, which is basically the sacrificial part, That provided the major part of the Vedas, which was the bulk of it. And towards the end of it, it was what we call the Gyan Kand. Gyan Kand means the knowledge part. The knowledge part later on were called the Upanishads. Upanishads literally translate into, in Sanskrit, saying that sitting at the feet of the Guru, sitting at the feet of the master and trying to acquire knowledge. That was Upanishads. So Upanishads, we had also more than hundreds of Upanishads, over different periods of time. This was, you can say, between the first century AD up till the fifth, that 500 years dense in Upanishadic thought. And therefore, of this, there were various schools also. There were various schools. And one of the schools of thought was, of course, Vedanta. And in this Vedanta also, you had different schools of Vedanta. I belong to the Advaita school of Vedanta, all the monist school of Vedanta, which was firmly established by Adi Sankaracharya in the 8th century AD. Before him, of course, Gaurapada, his guru, he had established this tradition of monism, which Shankaracharya later on took from him. And then he established this, what we call Advaita. So I would like to introduce myself basically as an Advaitic Vedantist. And in this, I see the world as one. So the universalism aspect in Vedantic thought comes straight out of this philosophy. And here, I would like to mention that we have 10 principal Upanishads, of which the very first one is the Ishopanishad. And the Ishopanishad, it has different Upanishads have different Mahavakyas, what we say, the supreme truths. And therefore, we start with, the first Mahavakya, and that is called Prajnanam Brahman. Prajnanam Brahman, which is consciousness is Brahman, or pure consciousness is Brahman. This comes from the Aitareya Upanishad, where Brahman, and now I'll come to the definition of Brahman, which will clarify matters. The entire universe is conscious. There is a consciousness pervading around the universe, which is represented in Brahman. So this one called Prajnanam Brahman, which is consciousness is Brahman. The second Mahavakya, there are 4 Mahavakyas, and I will explain each of these Mahavakyas are dealing with Brahman and the relationship between Atman and Paramatman, what we also see in the theosophy, theosophical philosophy. The second Mahavakya is I am Atma Brahman. I am Atma Brahman. This comes from the Mandukya Upanishads, which means this self is Brahman. I am Atma Brahman. This self is Brahman, which means the self, the Atman is Brahman itself. Atman is identical to Brahman. There are many other schools which will say that, for example, the dual philosophy, the Advaita philosophy will say that Brahman is separate from the Atman, but the Advaita philosophy would say that Atman and Paramatman are one and the same. The third Mahavakya, which is Tattvam Asi, which comes from the Chandogya Upanishad, it says, Thy art thou, which means that because we cannot define the Brahman, it is without attributes. What we call the Nirguna Brahman is without attributes. So we cannot define what it is. So we call that thou art. Thou is you, thou art that, which means you, Atman, is Brahman. Again, the same thing. And the last Mahavakya is Aham Brahmasmi, comes from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. Aham Brahmasmi. That is the final one which says, I am Brahman. I am Brahman. Now, you have to know who is I. Is I an identity mark? For example, I would say, you are Subralina, or I am Malay Mishra. But Malay Mishra is not I. That is my name. Like it is my body, it is my hand, it is my head, it is my eyes. So when I say my something, which means that I am far away from my, that is a possessive. I am possessing my eyes. It is not I. So what is that I? So that I is the definition of self or the Atman. And our Upanishad seers have gone deep into it, into the mystery of unraveling the self, and then in turn linking the self with his absolute realization with the Param Brahman, which is Brahman. Now you tell me that Brahman, who created it? Brahman is not the creator. Brahman is a cosmic consciousness. But the actual creator is Ishvara. The same concept you have in theosophy also, where you are speaking of Ishvara. And Ishvara is a Brahman with attributes. This Saguna Brahman. So you have two Brahmans, Nirguna Brahman without attributes and Saguna Brahman with attributes. And Saguna Brahman is the Brahman which has created this universe. And beyond that, there is another Brahman, which is consciousness, which has enveloped all this. So that is how the construct is. And then I would start with the beginning of, the philosophical truth of all the Vedas. The Rig Veda, the primary Veda, the first Veda, started with the first verse itself. It said, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, which means truth is one. Wise men say it in different ways. That shows the universality of truth. Truth is one. As Brahman is defined as truth, being bliss and consciousness. That is Sat, Chit, Ananda. That also is defined in the Chandogya Upanishad, the true nature of Brahman. That is Sat, Chit, Ananda. And Sat is what truth is. So truth is one. Truth is indivisible. So truth is that is the reality. And what we are trying to do, what the Vedas, the Vedic seers, the Upanishadic masters have tried to do is to understand this relationship between the Atman and the Brahman and try to establish an organic link between the two and to understand how the self reaches the point of dissolving itself in the Brahman. That is the basic point. That is how it attains realization, what we call self-realization. In Buddhist theory, it is called Nibbana. In many other sects, other things, you have a final apostasis where the soul reaches a destination where it merges, where it dissolves. It doesn't disappear. It is there. It could be born again by the theory of reincarnation, but it reaches a point which is its highest potential. As Swami Vivekananda said, we have infinity in us. The infinite is contained in us. And infinite is the potential, the spirituality content in us. So we have to attain that spiritual potential within us to the utmost through our deeds, through our words, through our actions, through our various activities in this world. We have to do, as we all know, we have to pass through the various paths of yoga. Karma yoga is one, and then Jnana yoga. Basically, Advaita philosophy takes on from the Jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge. And there it says that through knowledge, you know who you are and what you are going to do and what is your future, where you are going to be merged in what. So that is basically the concept as we see in this thing. We have various philosophers, Western philosophers who have tried to interpret the Upanishads in their own ways. Of course, one of the most important of them is a person called Schopenhauer, is a German philosopher of the 19th century. And, the Upanishads was translated into English from a Persian text by a person by the name of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And you should be familiar with the name of Raja Ram Mohan Roy because he was one of the early nationalists of India. And that time, of course, there was no Indian national movement, had not been crystallized. There was no Indian National Congress at that time. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a reformer basically, and he translated the Upanishads into English for the first time, and that caught the attention of the Western philosophers. And they found in the Upanishads the truth which they were looking for. And Schopenhauer was so overwhelmed with the Upanishads that he said that it is the final consolation of my life. As long as I am living, it is my consolation, and it will also be my consolation in my death. That was Schopenhauer. You have also American philosopher Thoreau, who said, when I read the Upanishads, it struck to me like a lightning that the truths which were there in the Upanishads, it held me in thrall, that I couldn't just get out of it. Max Müller, the very famous Indologist, German Indologist, he has also been pioneering the studies of Vedantic interpretations of Vedanta, and he also has many praises to sing for the Upanishads. But let me come to a group of people who, in modern times, we can relate. Our youth can relate. They are called the Neo-Vedantins. The Neo-Vedantis, they start. I will give you some names. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, Dr. Radhakrishnan. These are all what we call the Neo-Vedantis. Neo-Vedantis, they appeared on the scene in the 19th century, mid to late 19th century, and early part of the 20th century. They are we can say, the modern day interpreters of Advaita Vedanta. And then, what is this Neo-Vedantis? The Neo-Vedantis said that the universalism of Vedanta is the primary attribute of this philosophy. And how is that achieved? For example, they spoke from their real life experience. Let me give the example of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was a Sakta. He is a worshipper of Shakti, goddess Shakti, Ma Kali. He was working as a priest in a Kali temple in Dakshineshwar. The temple is still very much there in Kolkata, and it's a wonderful place to be. He was working as a priest there, but he tried to understand how he could realize himself, to which ways. So he got in touch with a Christian, a priest. He got in touch with an Islamic preacher, and through various ways, he got his realization. So he came out with this truth that the actual realization can be found in whichever religion you proceed, which means he broke down the barriers of religions and said that all religions basically say the same truth. You can ascend the heights of your spirituality by traversing through any path which leads up to the same mountain top where you need to be to attain to be a part of Brahman. Swami Vivekananda, his foremost disciple, he was an Advaitic Vedantist to the core. He established a series of centers, Vedanta centers all over America and even in England during his travels there. And there also he taught how Vedanta has been the backbone of Indian civilization. And he taught that if one thing Vedanta has taught to the world, it is to be fearless. It is to be courageous. It is to be dauntless. That which is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita by Sri Krishna, that one needs to be fearless to succeed in life. So that fearlessness is the most important component of Vedanta, that when you understand this truth of life, you become fearless. And when you become fearless, no holds barred. You can reach your destination by any way, but the destination has to be perfect. The destination has to be clear in your mind. And all this has to be done through your own experience. There is no training, no teaching. We have also, learned that it is experiential, which means it is through experience that you attain your realization. That is the beauty of Vedic philosophy. that whatever you understand out of Vedic philosophy is through your own experience. You may have a master, you may have a certain philosophy, you may have learned something, but it is ultimately within you that the awakening comes. The awakening comes to move higher in life and attain your spiritual destination, attain your potential, fullest potential, what Swami Vivekananda put. Dr. Radhakrishnan also in the same mold, he has written number of books, and almost all his books have the same strain, that Hinduism, what we call Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, it is an eternal religion. Eternal religion, because this Vedic philosophy, which is the backbone of Hinduism, is something eternal. It cannot be otherwise it cannot be disputed. The truths are the truths, and it is based on truth, it is based on bliss, and it is based on consciousness. So it cannot be challenged, though it can be absorbed, it can be learned, and you can further embellish it, you can further use it for your own perfection. To as Swami Vivekananda said, from one lesser stage of perfection, you move up to a higher stage of perfection. It is not from a negative to a positive stage. It is not from a non-stage to a stage, but from a lesser stage of evolution to a higher stage of evolution. The evolution will come, as also in theosophical philosophy, the evolution of man comes through reaching these various gradients of development of the human mind. In the trinity of the body, mind, and the spirit, the mind is active and it takes the body to higher realms of thought, and ultimately the spirit predominates. And that is how we define. Now, let me come to something which I think is the contemporary relevance of universalism in Vedantic thought. You discover that if yourself, that what I defined as the self, that is Atman, which is truth, that is within you, it is the same as in a fellow being. He also has the same self, he also has the same Atman, and we are all part of one fraternity. Entire humanity is part of one fraternity. So when you realize this, that is, I think, for you, a kind of a supreme realization that we cannot discriminate between human beings. We cannot discriminate. We cannot treat other human beings as inferior to us. Every human being has got his own value, has got his or her own value, her own worth. So in this today's society of fragmentation, of fracturization, of polarization, of communalization, of various kinds of disruptions in the society today, disharmony today, Vedanta teaches that all is one. There is an essential oneness in the universe, and there is an essential unity among all religions which unite human beings with each other. That is, I think, a great truth which comes out of Vedanta. And that, I think, denotes the universal aspect of Vedanta. With the realization of oneness, the sense of diversity vanishes and the cause of misery is removed. When the self identifies with the whole, with the Brahman, the self transcends all weakness and merges in the infinite. So the goal of self-realization is merging in the infinite. This also, if all human beings possess the same self, the indivisible, permanent, indestructible self, there will be no scope, no cause to harm, to hate, or dissociate ourselves from others. This will lead to fraternity, peace, and harmony in the society. Now, let me come to what we call as Maya, which is an important concept both in Vedantic philosophy as well as in theosophical philosophy also, as I have discovered, the concept of Maya. The Maya is that veil of illusion which prevails, which I would say, which is a necessary condition of living, because our immediate living is perceived through Maya. Yet Maya is like a veil over, it's like a superimposition over Brahman. Brahman, the cosmic consciousness, is veiled by this factor called Maya. And then through that, it is like, the theory of the serpent and the rope, where a rope is lying on the road and you mistake it for a serpent. It is the same thing. It is like Maya, the entire world is mistaken to be Maya, whereas it is a manifestation of Brahman itself. So that is what we call as Maya. In Indian philosophy, is the Sanskrit word for philosophy is darshana. Darshana means seeing. So philosophy is seeing, is experiencing. That is the beauty of Indian philosophy. That it is unlike, Western philosophy, the Judeo-Christian tradition of looking at philosophy externally. Here we look at philosophy internally, as a part of our internal perception, as a part of our internal experience. That is where we look at it. Mandukya Upanishad, that is the core Upanishad, I would say. That is also the favorite Upanishad of Shankaracharya, where Mandukya equates the self with Brahman. I am Atma Brahman, what I said, one of the four Vakyas, comes out from the Mandukya Upanishad, and it also has this concept of Om, A-U-M, Om, this Trinity, which is also spoken in the theosophical, philosophical way, the Trinity. It's also A-U-M, the three parts of the triad, what we call that which leads. The very mystic sound of Om, you pronounce that sound within yourself, and it echoes, and it brings within you the fulfillment of Brahman within you, the very mystic sound of Om, A-U-M. So that is also has been defined in detail in Mandukya Upanishad. So this Adi Shankaracharya called for a synthesizing approach towards all religions, because of this very core philosophy of universalism in Advaitic philosophy. I will like to present to you a thought of my own Gurudev, Swami Sivananji, who was founder of the Divine Life Society in Rishikesh. Incidentally, I am a member of that Divine Life Society also. And he has said some very, very good words, some very, memorable words. And I will creed, color have absolutely no place in matters of faith. A true devotee recognizes the equality of all men. When the inner eye of wisdom is opened, when the aspirant beholds oneness everywhere, when he feels the presence of the Lord in every atom of the universe, where are the distinctions of caste, creed, and color? See life as a whole. The Lord breathes in all life. Cultivate cosmic love. So this was the message of my Gurudev Swami Sivanji Maharaj of the Divine Life Society. And now I will end my short talk on Vedanta with a verse which I love. That is the verse from the Ishopanishad, which defines fullness. And there it says, Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate, which means from fullness to fullness. That is again fullness. If you bring fullness into fullness, that also becomes fullness. So the life always is full. And the fullness comes from Brahman, because Brahman is full, and you, Atman, you are an identification of the Brahman, so you are also full. So you are also a part of that. So you are part of the universal cosmic being, of the universal cosmic consciousness. That is what you are. So I will end this, my little talk with this. I again would like to thank Sister Subralina for giving me this opportunity to speak a few words about what I feel are the Advaitic Vedantic thoughts and how I feel these thoughts will heal the present illnesses of mankind in these thoughts. I think if we carry these thoughts forward in every way, in every forum, everywhere, I think they'll have a lasting effect on the benefits for all mankind. Thank you very much, and Jai Jagannath.
Very nice, Brother Malay Mishra ji. As truly said by you, you talked about a lot of things relating Vedantic philosophy and Theosophic philosophy. Truly speaking, in Theosophical Society, we do have public lectures because we really want to see the other dimension also. Like, we are an open school, I would say. We are open to ideas, beliefs, and views, perceptions. But the good part is the very theme you spoke about, and you have been a true believer and practitioner of Vedantic thought, as I have known you personally. There is so much of I would not say similarity. I think it's so much of it's interrelated. The interrelation of Vedanta and Theosophic thoughts, it's so much there in our belief system, in our day-to-day as Theosophists, whatever we see, we follow, we perceive, we discuss, whatever we do, it's so much connected. That was the beauty of this talk. I think it's one of the public talks wherein we didn't have to struggle to understand your perspectives or your, as you said, no, this is how I have learned, this is how I have read. We all connect with you, sir. Whatever you say, each word was actually reflective to what we have been learning, sharing, preaching, whatever you call. And the good coincidence personally to me is why I'm so excited about this talk. I have recently started reading this book, very recently. Though this book was lying in my library maybe for years, I don't know why. I think I started it some 3-4 days back only. Sanatana Dharma, and it's an advanced textbook of Hindu religions and ethics compiled by Ani Besant and Bhagwan Das ji. So this book, somewhere I had referred, I had listened to, I would have read it as a summary, but now I have recently started understanding it in its depth. So it talks about Upanishad, it talks about Vedic philosophy. It has connected the Bhagavad Gita, the sayings of Lord Krishna. It has connection to the very Vedic mantra, the first mantra, I would say, the Gayatri. And incidentally, I have been reading this Gayatri also in my lodge meetings. So somewhere I felt connected. Probably I was destined to read these two books. I didn't know that this public lecture is going to happen, but probably the universe was preparing me to such a moderation of a talk where I had started learning it. And one more point which I would like to say here is, as you said, truth, that there can be no attribute, which is supreme truth. We cannot define, we cannot express it fully. It cannot be known fully, but yes, as seekers, we are all seeking for the truth, and there is no religion higher than truth is the motto of Theosophical Society. That's what we all are seeking for. We think beyond religions, so we cannot restrict ourselves. We cannot have any rigidity. We all are learners here. Thank you for being a learner with us. Thank you for sharing your beautiful words. Thank you so much. And as you said, I've introduced you to this forum. I feel like introducing you to our youth forums as well. You should go and talk to the youth, because as a philanthropist, if you have started as a charity, you donated your personal library to mentor people, you should come up and handhold other youth too. Thank you so much, sir. Thank
you so much, Subralina. And your words mean a lot to me, because you have come a long way on the path of your theosophical philosophy. You are a teacher there. You have been also teaching and forming minds into grooming them. I am doing my little bit. I don't teach philosophy exactly to my students. I teach them contemporary affairs. I teach them about politics, economy, and foreign affairs and foreign policy, what they will require for if they go for any competitive exam. But yes, this is important. This is also important because though it is not strictly a bread and butter issue, it is an issue on which life hinges. So you've got to know where you are positioned, and what is your future, what is going to happen after a few years when this self dissolves, and what happens then. So it is important for you to know that. So, and as you rightly said, I found a lot of interrelatedness between my own study of Vedantic philosophy and a little bit of theosophical, the world of theosophy, which I'm a beginner in your world. So I hope I'll be accepted as such, and I'll have further opportunities to move up this ladder of spiritual progress. Thank you so much.
Definitely. We will do it together. So there are a lot of seniors of our Theosophical Society members. Probably they would like to say their few words, or I don't think in a public lecture we do generally question answer sessions, because you are also, doing your own research. But however, anyone would like to clarify certain things from you, most welcome. You are not bound to answer them. You may not, but questions people can ask. And any senior member would like to add on some points, we are most welcome. Another 5-10 minutes we can spend in that. Over to you, my senior brothers and sisters.
Are we inviting questions and suggestions from
whatever
the audience?
Yes. So they can, just
okay.
Unmute and say. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for your beautiful explanations about Upanishads. And I think Upanishads are the core of Indian philosophy as far as I have known, because I am a beginner in theosophy. But Upanishads, I have read some. These are the core. And among these Upanishads, I think Bhagavad Gita is the one which give our day-to-day life answers, I think. And it was glad to know that you are the disciple of Swami Shivanand. We are just discussing about Bhagavad Gita. And we are just reading about the Tika of Swami Shivanand only. Because हम लोग जब कोशिश करते हैं तो हम डायरेक्ट उसी पे डिस्कस करते हैं विदाउट एनी टीकास, बिकॉज डिफरेंट टीकास आर रिटन. जिसने भी लिखा है वो अपने अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यूज को लिखा है. लेकिन शिवानंद की जो भगवत गीता है वो हम लोगों ने उसका पूरा पढ़ा. वो मुझे कहीं बहुत ज्यादा सटीक लगती है, इफ आई कैन से. तो हम लोग स्वामी शिवानंद को भी पढ़ रहे हैं, बट कोशिश हम लोग ये करते हैं कि डायरेक्ट भगवत गीता के श्लोकों पे ही कंटेम्पलेट करें, उसी पे मनन चिंतन करें, ज्यादा अच्छा है. एज फॉर एज आपने बताया स्वामी रामकृष्ण परमहंस का, कि किस तरीके से तोतापुरी जब उनके आए तो जो चीज तोतापुरी को 40 इयर्स में हुई थी वो स्वामी रामकृष्ण को 3 दिन की समाधि में मिल गई, जबकि ही वाज द डेड डिसाइपल ऑफ काली माँ. वो कहते थे कि बार बार आती है मेरे ध्यान में, किस तरीके से किया. तो मुझे लगता है कभी कभी कि दीज आर द सोल्स, वो हमें सिखाने आती हैं, एक तरीके से डिसेंड करती हैं ऑटोमेटिकली. एंड एवरी सोल हैज इट्स ओन जर्नी. तो उस जर्नी में उसका क्या गोल ऑफ पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ है, वो यदि जान लेते हैं हम कि व्हाट इज माय पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ, यदि मैं उसको भी समझ लेती हूँ और कर लेती हूँ, तो मेरे ख्याल से अपने आप में ये यात्रा एक ग्रोथ की ओर जाएगी, एज फार एज आई अंडरस्टैंड. तो थैंक यू सो मच सर. आपसे बहुत कुछ लर्न करने, बिकॉज उपनिषद आर माय फेवरेट सब्जेक्ट.
So
thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone would like to add something, question something? Maybe it was crystal clear to people agree to what you say, and I think we all follow. Jai Krishna, brother Jai Krishna ji is there. Just Sudeep Kumar Mishra. Yes, you are raising your hand. Okay. You may come on video and audio, then I can share you in Spotlight.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm audible?
Who?
Yes.
Jai Krishna, sir?
Yes, we can hear you. Sudeep Kumar
Sudeep.
Mishra.
Yeah, Sudeep. Why don't you come on
Yes,
video? Yes.
sir. It's not a question, just a curiosity कि सर शंकराचार्य ने एक वर्ड यूज किया अध्यास, उस विषय में आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे सर? अध्यास,
अध्यास, अध्ययन वाला
हाँ,
अध्यास।
अध्यास का मतलब, इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि गॉड भी माया का पार्ट है। तो
Okay.
जब ईश्वर भी माया का है तो इसके लिए शंकराचार्य ने एक विशेष शब्द का प्रयोग किया था, अध्यास, कि ईश्वर भी माया से परे नहीं है, ईश्वर भी माया का ही अंग है। तो मैं इस विषय में मैं चाहूंगा कि सर कुछ कहें।
So, Mr. Mishra, you have done some research on this. When you talked about Maya, like there's a veil, there's this illusion. So, maybe you can say something. I'm excited to say something, but you may say.
I must add that, there was a famous quotation of Sri Aurobindo talking about Maya, that he said that it is time that we move from universal illusionism to universal realism. So what he meant was that Maya, consider that veil of illusion which is upon us. We have to go through that veil. Of course, that veil is also in a way relatively true. What we are in, the world is also enveloped in Maya, but we have to go beyond it. That is the our path, that we have to go from universal illusionism to universal realism. The real is what is Brahman, and we have to achieve that Brahman, and we have to, our real self is that Brahman. So we have to reach that point, and that is where Advaitic thought on Vedanta is basically brings everybody together on the same plane of thinking.
I think this is a good topic for
Thank
all
you,
the
sir.
theosophists. Yeah, thank you, Sudhi, for this question. Because when you questioned also, even it came to my mind. I think this is a topic which we need to discuss and explore together. Is there a limit to this Maya? Like beyond that Maya, there is this godness or that phrase being God there? Or is God the very word? That itself is an illusion. Are we defining something to be God and rest of this is not God? I remember Brother Kailash is also here. Somebody asked in a forum to him, Brother Kailash, that do you believe in God and what is God? Brother Kailash asked this person, what is not God? These are the questions. Brother Kailash is here only. I'm sure he is listening to me, Colonel BK Kailash. So there are things which we need to explore. We need to ask ourselves. So that God is illusion. What is God? What is this the framework? Is there a defined framework which we are referring as to God and that's why it's an illusion? Or is it a spirit? It's a matter? It's what? So that all depends. So anything we hear, perceive, we need to question that. So God is illusion. If it's an illusionary God, that term itself, so it has to be an illusion only. That's it. I mean, this is how, out of inquisitiveness, I'm just thinking like this. But I'm sure we all can, together probe into it.
Okay, thank you, Shurvilna.
Okay, so I think we would go ahead with our closing prayer. It was very interesting and more to do with you, sir. We would very soon see you in other Theosophic forums too. So let us do our universal prayer and we'll conclude. Okay, that is the format here.
Thank you very much to everybody.
Yeah.
And Jai Jagannath. I come from the Lord Jagannath's abode, and I bring prayers of Lord Jagannath for the benefit of all mankind. I will end it with a prayer for the welfare of all. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhave. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Oh.
Very nice. That was exactly our closing prayer. So I don't need to recite that. You did it correctly. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all. See you all soon again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Namaste.